In a world of magic and monsters, not all who are summoned are destined for greatness. Ren, a high school student snatched from his world, stood before the Grand King of Eldoria. He was told he'd be a hero, a savior, but the magical appraisal crystal, which glowed brilliantly for the others summoned alongside him, remained dark and lifeless in his hands. The king's face soured, worthless. That was his verdict. While his classmates received powerful classes like Swordmaster and Archmage, Ren was given nothing. No skills, no divine blessing, just the clothes on his back and the crushing weight of disappointment. He wasn't even worthy of being sent home. Instead, he was cast aside, thrown into the deepest, most dangerous part of the labyrinth of no return, a place where even seasoned adventurers met their end, a dumping ground for the kingdom's trash. He landed hard on the cold, damp stone floor, the heavy iron gate clanging shut behind him, its sound echoing like a death sentence. Darkness enveloped him, thick and suffocating. The air was heavy with the stench of decay and something else, something predatory. He could hear skittering sounds in the shadows, the drip, drip, drip of water, and a low growl that vibrated through the very ground he lay on. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through him. Is this it? Is this how I die? Scared, alone, and utterly useless, he pushed himself up, his body trembling. Eatsomob had to survive. He stumbled through the pitch-black corridors, his hands tracing the rough-hewn walls. Suddenly, a pair of glowing red eyes ignited in the darkness ahead. A goblin, larger and more menacing than any he'd read about in stories, brandished a rusty, jagged blade. It snarled, drool dripping from its fanged maw, and charged. Ren's mind went blank with panic. He scrambled backward, tripping over a loose stone. The goblin was on him in an instant, its blade slashing down. He threw his arm up to defend himself. A desperate, instinctual act. Pain, white-hot and blinding, shot up his arm as the blade bit deep into his flesh. He screamed, a raw, ragged sound of agony and terror. But as his blood dripped onto the dungeon floor, something impossible happened. A serene, blue light pulsed from his wound, and a voice, calm and ethereal, echoed in his mind. System unlocked. Unique skill. Absorb. You have absorbed the essence of a dungeon goblin. Analysis complete. You have acquired the skill. Dagger Mastery, Level 1. A shimmering, spectral dagger materialized in his hand. The goblin froze, confused by the sudden light. Ren didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing. This was his only chance. Fueled by a surge of adrenaline he never knew he possessed, he lunged forward, plunging the spectral dagger into the goblin's chest. The creature shrieked and dissolved into particles of light, which then flowed into Ren's body. System notification. Experience gained. Level up. You are now level 2. Stat points awarded. Ren stared at his hands, then at the spot where the goblin had been. The wound on his arm had already closed, leaving only a faint scar. He wasn't worthless. He had a power, a strange, terrifying, but incredible power. He could absorb the abilities of whatever he defeated. In this forsaken labyrinth, a place meant to be his tomb, he had found his path to survival. A grim smile touched his lips. If the world deemed him trash, then he would become the king of the discarded. He would devour every monster, absorb every skill, and climb his way out of this abyss. He took a deep breath, the spectral dagger feeling solid and real in his grip. His fear was still there, but now it was mixed with a new, dangerous resolve. He was no longer just Ren, the useless student. He was a hunter, and the hunt had just begun. Days turned into a blur of desperate battles. He fought giant spiders, absorbing their ability to spin razor-sharp webs. He defeated armored beetles, gaining a skill that hardened his skin like steel. Each victory was a brutal, life-or-death struggle. He learned to move silently, to use the darkness as his ally. The dungeon, once his prison, was becoming his training ground, his domain. He grew stronger, faster, and more ruthless with every monster he absorbed. he was no hero. Heroes fought for justice, for glory. He fought for his next breath. One day, he stumbled into a vast, cavernous chamber. In the center, illuminated by glowing crystals, was a creature of nightmare. It was a behemoth of muscle and fur, twice his height, with eyes burning with savage intelligence. It held a colossal axe that looked like it could cleave a mountain in two. This wasn't a mere goblin or a spider. This was a dungeon floor boss. The Minotaur roared, a sound that shook the very foundations of the dungeon, and charged. Its hooves pounded the ground like war drums. Ren didn't run. He stood his ground, his heart hammering against his ribs. He activated his skills. His skin hardened, and spectral daggers materialized in both hands. He dodged the first swing of the massive axe, the wind from the blow nearly tearing him off his feet. The axe slammed into the ground, shattering stone. Ren used the opening, dashing in and driving his daggers into the monster's leg. The Minotaur bellowed in pain and rage, swinging its horns wildly. One caught Ren in the side, sending him flying into a wall. His ribs screamed in protest. Pain exploded in his chest. System notification. Warning. Severe injury detected, but Ren just spat out a mouthful of blood and grinned. He felt more alive than ever. This was the challenge he needed. He absorbed the pain, channeled his focus, and weaved the spider silk he'd acquired into a net, flinging it at the beast's face. Blinded and enraged, the Minotaur thrashed wildly. Ren saw his chance. He gathered all the energy he could muster, his body glowing with a faint blue aura. He leaped onto the creature's back, climbing its matted fur like a man possessed. He reached its thick neck and plunged his daggers deep, again and again, pouring all his strength, all his will to survive, into each strike. The Minotaur's roars weakened, its struggles subsided, and finally, with a ground-shaking thud, the colossal beast fell silent. An immense wave of light and power washed over Ren, more potent than anything he had ever felt before. System notification. Floor boss defeated. Absorbing essence of Labyrinth Mini. You have acquired the unique skill, Berserker's Rage. Your level has increased by 5. All stats significantly increased. He collapsed onto the fallen monster, gasping for air. His body broken, but his spirit soaring. Hey, had done Italiano. He had defeated a floor boss. As the particles of light faded, a shimmering staircase of light appeared at the far end of the chamber, leading upward. The path out. He could finally leave this dark, horrific place. He stood up, his wounds slowly knitting themselves back together. He looked at the staircase, then back into the darkness of the labyrinth. Leave meant returning to the world that had cast him out. The king, his classmates, they would see him, but they wouldn't see a hero. They'd see a monster forged in the darkness, carrying the power of 100 defeated beasts. A part of him wanted to stay, to conquer the entire dungeon, to become its undisputed master. But another part, the part that was still Ren, yearned for the sun. He took one last look at his first real home, the place that had tried to kill him and ended up giving him a purpose. Then, with a determined stride, he began to climb the stairs, one step at a time, leaving the darkness behind and walking toward the light. The world wasn't ready for him. The boy they threw away was coming back, and he was no longer worthless. He was a force of nature, and he was hungry. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed Ren's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for the next chapter of his ascent. See you next time.